Reality is the relationship between perspective and potential. For something to be an actual concrete object, it must have a perspective to detect it, and some underlying potential that can be detected. Perspective and potential aren't really things. They aren't nouns so much as adjectives. They describe and shape the reality between them. So despite not being concrete or graspable, perspective and potential are both present in everything that we do. Potential or substance or stuff can't become real, can't become an object by itself. Without some type of observation, the universe could only exist as a giant question mark, as a smudge and a blur containing every possibility. Think, it's not even possible to imagine a shape without sneaking in a position to see it from. You can't think that an object has mass without imagining a way to feel it, to sense the pressure. So even hypothetically, in order to claim that something exists, you have to insert some way of detecting its properties. So, I'm not saying the kitchen isn't real when you can't see it anymore. People are complicated, and our memories of the world and our sensations from the world overlap very closely. I'm not surprised when I walk into the kitchen, because my memory of it is also real to me. I simply rolled smoothly over from memories to sensations. I experience my memories just like I experience seeing, so my memories are real too. On the other hand, perspective can seem somewhat self-sufficient when you look into a mirror. Aren't you making yourself real by looking at yourself? But aside from seeming a little self-centered, you can still only be aware because your self consists of stuff that you're able to notice. What you see in a mirror is your body, not your perspective. So even self-awareness depends on the potential getting actualized into an image. The only way there can be a real object is when there's both perspective and stuff to observe. So concrete objects or objective reality exists as a relationship between the perspective and the potential, the soup that's been solidified. A few examples. First, the old riddle. If a tree falls in the forest but there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? It'll make no sound right now because there's no tree right now, only potential. Potential could resolve into a fallen tree, but only after whatever frame of reference we're currently hypothesizing about actually goes out and makes an observation, at which point the tree retroactively did make the sound. But because there's no observation at the time of the falling, there's no tree or sound at that time either. So back to the mirror, which is more complicated than it seems. First, we must distinguish between perspective as being in the moment, being present, and perspective as a thing, as an object which we're talking about. Like saying Steve has a skeptical perspective. And of course, every time I say that there is the present perspective, it actually isn't, because we're not actually in that moment, we're talking about it. But I still need to make this distinction so that you can imagine where to put yourself in a hypothetical scenario. So back to the mirror. First, your present perspective sees an image of a person looking back, but this person isn't your perspective in the moment, it's a perspective as an object, because you can only be in one place at a time. Then, your pattern recognition recognises that your body and the mirror image are the same, and then you switch your perspective to being the person in the mirror. You stop looking at the mirror as an object and start focusing instead on a tertiary goal, like maybe brushing your hair, or like moving your mirror arm instead. So by a 3-step process, you become the man in the mirror without ever having two present perspectives at once, because it's impossible to see the present perspective while still being present within it. This also means that the think in Descartes' I think therefore I am is wrong. This one's a 2-step process. First, we experience, we sense from the present perspective. Then we notice what we just did, turn our first perspective into an object, and then we can deduce logically that in order for any sensation to have occurred at all, which we know it did, there must have been something to experience it, which proves that being itself is beyond all doubt. So it should be I sense, therefore I am, because thinking is only necessary for the reasoning in the second step. The first one can be any type of experience at all. On the topic of present perspective versus object perspective, present perspective is the type that actually shapes reality, The object type is just a part of reality. I tend to assume that everything has being, that everything exists in the moment, because that way I don't need to propose some kind of consciousness juice, and so fall afoul of Occam's razor. But in any case, this type of perspective is undefinable, because defining it turns it into object perspective. Object perspective is only possible once memory gets involved, and it can be precise and bounded. The scientific method, where you write down your methodology, is a very precise type of object perspective, and if you take exactly the same approach, you should see exactly the same result, in theory. And the scientific world depends on a huge system of these method perspectives. As to what different things can sense, I think a tree or a rock have being, it's just that they have no memory to relive the past. So they do react and sense in the moment. Like, for example, a tree shaking when the wind hits it. Whereas a city is quite intelligent. If, say, a new chemical causes a fire, the city will react and change how it controls it, so that the fire doesn't happen again. In this case, people would be the city's sensory organs, which let it discriminate between different chemicals. Arguably, a memorial ceremony could act as a type of collective memory too, because the city is replaying a version of the past event. If you don't like all this relativity, I'm not saying reality is whatever we want it to be. Well, we can edit our memories, but we can't change what we see directly. The underlying potential has an internal consistency of its own, and as far as anybody knows, that network of non-contradiction is universal. So when people live within contradictory memories, we expect that the difference comes from the perspective, not from the potential they both observed. If two people look into the same mystery box, we expect them to agree about what they saw. And so when we find ourselves in disagreements about how things are, we've got to be very careful and very precise about exactly where we're coming from. If I say it's rude to burp loudly at the table, this assessment of reality has been made from the perspective of my culture, so we understand how to behave in Western cultural settings. If I say it's objectively universally rude to burp, then I'm going to generate pointless conflict with foreign cultures, because I made the realities collide. And if I say it's rude to burp in some cultures and polite to burp in others, therefore manners don't actually exist, I would have just claimed that reality isn't real, and the philosophy cops might come and take my license.